Carla and Diane up in Tennessee, this dish is just for you. Chicken and dumplings as taught to me by my great-grandmother, Granny Daisy. And we're going to show you how to fix it. Welcome back, folks. Tonight we're doing chicken and dumplings. And this is a recipe that was taught to me by my great-grandmother. So I'm going to do it pretty much the way she did. Obviously you're going to need some chicken, a little salt and pepper. We're going to need some self-rising flour for the dumpling portion, some Italian seasoning, a couple of cloves of garlic that we'll put into the mix. Going to need some chicken broth, more than one container, some carrots. Don't have to be baby carrots. I just couldn't find any normal carrots at Kroger yesterday, so this is what I was stuck with. And some fresh celery. And that's pretty much all you need. It's a fairly simple recipe. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to start by making the dumplings first, and then we'll do the chicken. Okay, getting started with the dumplings. And I have to warn you, before we get started with anything, there's not a lot of measurements in this recipe, because that's the way Granny Daisy did things. She just had it all in her head and really didn't measure. So I'm kind of doing it the same way. She taught me this when I was a teenager, when she came to visit us when we lived in Waycross, and she made chicken and dumplings one night and taught me how to do it. And like I said, she didn't measure, she just eyeballed everything. So I'm going to start with some self-rising flour, not all-purpose, but self-rising, and put some of that into the bowl. Not a whole lot. It's not like we're making biscuits, although the process is really similar. Keep that open. I'll need that to flour the purple mat. To that, I'm going to add some of the Italian seasoning to it, just so the dumplings have a little flavor to them, so they're not plain. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to that also. A couple of good grinds there. Give that a stir. We add a little bit more so I can see some color to it. Okay. Alright, to that we're going to add some shortening. Don't ask me how much, because I don't know. We just have to kind of eyeball it here. So, try that. Again, just like we did with the biscuits, we're going to work this into the flour using fingers. Put that off to the side. Until it gets that same kind of crumbly texture that we did with the biscuits. So using fingers. You don't have to make a huge batch of dumplings, because these things are going to swell up when they cook. So a little bit will actually go a long way. Granny Daisy was my grandmother Belle's stepmother, actually. She was my great-grandfather Wilson's second wife. I never knew the original great-grandmother Wilson. She died long before I was born. But after she died, he married Daisy, and just known to the family as Granny Daisy. Very, very cool lady. She, in the afternoons, she'd sit on the back porch and read her Bible and dip snuff. So, you gotta love that. Granny Daisy also taught me how to tell the difference between self-rising flour and all-purpose flour. If you got 2 containers of flour and you don't know which is which, stick your finger in it and taste it. If it's salty, it's self-rising flour. If it's not salty, it's all-purpose flour. I've always remembered that ever since she told me that. just about got it done. You see the texture now is getting crumbly as opposed to that really fine floury look to it. Okay, to that we're going to add some whole milk. Let me dust my fingers off for a moment. And we're going to make it about the same texture as we did with the biscuits. And again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. Like I said, there's no measurements involved. Let's start with that, see how that goes. Let me get my spoon back. Actually, I think I'll grab a fresh spoon for this. Need to add some more flour to that because that's a little bit wet. Like I said, this is all kind of eyeball and just feel it by texture. Yeah, that's better. So we get that same sticky dough ball like we did with the biscuits. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Alright, as you can see it's kind of clumped up into a nice sticky mass there, and that's what we want. Alright, so now, let me get this out of the way before I spill it. I'll clean that later. Flour my surface here. Grab my little strainer, put some flour in here. Okay. Turn this out. Okay, like that. Flour on top. Press it out. We do kind of like we did with the biscuits. I'm just gonna fold it over a little bit. Like that. All right. Pretty good. Now, get my rolling pin. I'm going to roll this out fairly flat. These dumplings are going to start out really, really flat when we put them in, but when they start cooking in the hot liquid, they're going to swell up. Now, I know there's different styles of dumplings. Some people like, I guess, what are basically the hard dumplings. Some people like soft dumplings. It's the only kind of dumplings I've ever made, so. You notice I'm rolling these out really, really thin. Alright, that should work. Okay, so now we're going to take a knife and we're going to cut these into strips and then into little squares basically, and I'm just going to put them on a plate over here, and then they'll be ready when we get ready to put them into the finished product. Like I said, these are going to swell up really nicely once they hit that hot liquid. And again, I'm getting flour on the floor, so I am right on schedule here. And I'm just going to take these and put them on the plate. And it's okay if there's flour hanging on to it, because that will help thicken the mixture once it's cooking, because we want kind of a thick little, I don't know, almost like a, I don't know, gravy, something like that. So it's fine if they have flour sticking to them. If you had a pizza cutter, that would work really, really well for cutting these dumplings. I don't think I have a pizza cutter. And I need to go ahead and point out, this is a Joseph approved dish because I've made this for him before. He loves chicken and dumplings. And they don't have to be perfect little squares. They'll be just fine. I am being supervised today off camera by Pauline, the Wonder Dog. Who's now drinking water. You're coming over to see if I spill something, didn't you? I noticed the other day when I was looking through some very old cookbooks for some different recipes, trying to find some new stuff. Reading the recipes, some of those recipes people really didn't measure like we tend to do today when we make stuff. They give directions like put an ample amount of something or cook in a moderate oven. Well, my stove doesn't have a moderate setting, so I'm not sure what a moderate oven is. And what's ample to one person could be too much for someone else, so. I guess people back then followed recipes a little differently. I guess kind of like I do when I just kind of wing it in the kitchen. Sometimes recipes are good to follow. Sometimes if you like to experiment, you know, and create things on your own. It can go one of two ways. You can either come up with something that's really absolutely brilliant and tasty, and then you try to remember what you did so you can recreate it, or you end up creating a hazmat situation. And even with the hazmat situation, sometimes that can be good because you get to meet the nicest people, and they're usually wearing uniforms. So I guess both sides of that have a point. All right, so and as usual, I make way too many dumplings, but better to have too many than not quite enough. So like I said, they don't have to be perfect. Okay. All done. All right. So I have my plate full of raw dumplings. I'm just going to put this off to the side until we get cooking with the chicken. And up next, we'll start doing the chicken and the vegetables. Moving on to the vegetables, we got our carrots and our celery. We're just going to cut these up. I keep my celery in a container with some cold water just to keep it nice and crisp. We're just going to dice these up. Not dice them, slice them rather. I think better if I do it that way. You could add onion to this if you want to. Granny Daisy didn't put onion in hers, but I guess some people would. I'm just going to do it the way she did it. Plus, Joseph doesn't like onions, so he's not fond of celery either, but he can pick that out, you know. Easy enough to do. I'm just going to put these in this little bowl over here. Now, proportion-wise, how much you use is going to depend on how much you make. If you're cooking a whole big batch of this stuff, you're going to need more of everything than what I'm doing. I'm making a smaller batch. So that's kind of up to you as to how much you're making. I do take my leftovers and stick them in the fridge and heat them up later, so that works out well. Alright, so I'm thinking for the size I'm doing, maybe one more good sized stalk of celery, and then we'll move on to the carrots. probably work. And move on to some carrots. Like I said before, I wanted to get normal carrots. Kroger let me down. All they had were baby carrots. They did have some regular carrots, but they were in a bag that was literally like this big by this big, and I just didn't need that many carrots right now. So I ended up having to go with the baby option. So we're just going to slice these guys up. In the meantime, I've got my pan heating up over here with a little bit of olive oil in it. So that'll be ready to go once we get the chicken cut up. I'm going to continue on with that, and then we'll come back and do the chicken. Alright, veggies are cut up. I'm going to take the garlic and I'm going to mince a couple of cloves of garlic. I'm just going to throw these into the little vegetable dish here, and they'll get added to the pot in a few minutes. Then we'll cut up the chicken. Garlic is optional. If you don't want garlic in this, don't put it in it. It's up to you. You're the one cooking it, not me. I happen to like garlic, so in it goes. There we go. All right, so garlic's in. On to the chicken. Now, a couple of things about the chicken. Number one, I'm using chicken breast because I happen to like white meat. If you like dark meat, use chicken thighs instead of chicken breast. Or if you like both, if you like it mixed, then you can use chicken breast and chicken thighs. I like white meat. Joseph actually likes dark meat. That works out perfectly at Thanksgiving when we cook the turkey, because he gets all the dark meat he wants and I get all the white meat that I want. There's no arguing over who gets what. So I'm just going to cut this into pieces. Another thing about the chicken, some people, when they make chicken dumplings, they actually take the chicken and they will bake it or fry it or something. Not really fry it, but saute it in a pan or bake it. Then they'll take it out and they'll take a knife and a fork and they'll shred it and then add it to the pot. But that's not the way Granny Daisy did it, so that's not the way I'm going to do it. Plus it messes up another pan, and I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to keep it simple. So we're just going to cut this into chunks. I like them in bite-sized pieces. Makes it easier to eat that way. By the way, I was informed last night that I will be doing cooking videos at Thanksgiving. So I guess I'm going to be doing cooking videos at Thanksgiving, and Joseph is going to have to be my cameraman, because he wants me to do, or at least video, the turkey recipe that I do. He also wants me to do the cranberry relish recipe that I do. I was also informed last night that I apparently am expected to make a cake for him for Thanksgiving, so I have that to look forward to too, which I'll be making a cake tomorrow. That'll be my next video, actually, is lemon cake. So that'll be fun. I've never actually made one of those myself, but I've had it before and it was really good. So we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so there's one chicken breast. I'm going to cut up the other two and then we'll start cooking. Okay, chicken is now cut up, so I've got my hot oil in the pan and I'm going to add this and let the chicken start cooking first. Let's maybe do this without splattering. Yeah. And then once that starts cooking, we're going to add the veggies to it. I want the chicken to get started first. Make sure it gets nice and done. And I turned the heat down a little bit, so I didn't want it to burn when it went in there, but I can turn the heat back up now. Again, that's just a couple tablespoons of olive oil in the pan. Bring that up some and let that cook. While that is doing its thing, add a little pepper to it. A little bit of kosher salt. Let that go for a few minutes while the chicken cooks. It's all the way done, and then we will continue on. The chicken's coming along pretty well now. It's getting cooked, not cooked all the way, but it's getting there. And so now that it's partially cooked, I'm going to add in the carrots, the celery, and the garlic so that they can cook as well. Smells better already. Okay. And then to that, I'm going to bring the heat up a little bit. I'm going to start adding in some of the chicken broth. Again, how much chicken broth you use is going to depend on what size batch of chicken dumplings you're making. If you're cooking for a family of 12, obviously you're going to make a bigger batch than what I'm making. I'm just going to add this in. And we're going to let it come to a boil. There's one. 2 might do it for us. So 2 of those should do us. Give that a good stir. I'm going to put the lid on it, let it come to a boil again, and then it will be dumpling time. Alright, we've come up to almost a boil here. I did just taste this for seasoning, and it needs a little bit of salt added to it. So add a little bit more salt to it. And now that the water has come to a bit of a boil, this is where we add in the dumplings themselves. So we're going to take the dumplings we made earlier, and we just drop them into the boiling liquid like that. Notice I'm not dropping the whole plate in at one time, because then you end up with this ungodly glob of stuff. Just drop the individual dumplings in, and as they cook, they're going to swell up. Before I go any further, I'm going to add in a little more of the Italian seasoning. Again, I'm not measuring, because, you know, I love risking a hazmat situation. Alright, more dumplings in. Probably turn it down a little bit there. This dish can be rather versatile. If you're not into dumplings, you can adapt this for other purposes. If you want to make chicken and rice, just do this recipe without the dumplings, and when it gets to this point, you just throw in your uncooked rice and let it simmer. You'll have chicken and rice. If you prefer chicken noodle soup, do this recipe, and when it gets to that point, just throw in like some uncooked egg noodles, and you'll have chicken noodle soup. So there's several things you can do with this. Notice how the dumplings are swelling up. They're puffing up, getting nice and chewy. And again, we're just dropping it into the boiling bits there. It's like my favorite part of the whole recipe is watching the dumpling magic, as it were. And they do rise up to the top as they get cooked and puffy. There's one more step we got to do to this once I get the dumplings in, to thicken it up a bit. Give that a stir. Smells absolutely fantastic. And Diane up in Tennessee, you sent me a message this morning saying you wish you were here. I wish you were here too, because this is fantastic. And I could use you to hold the camera instead of having to use a tripod all the time. My dog sucks at being a cameraman. She doesn't have the paws for it. And just curious, Diane, down here, since we've got the eclipse coming, they have actually canceled school for Chatham County and Effingham County. Effingham County declared an inclement weather day, as if there's going to be bad weather. Just curious what they're doing up there in Tennessee. I don't know if y'all are in a path of totality or near totality. Around here, we're going to be at about 97%. Just curious what they're going to do up there. I guess they figured here that so many kids would be absent going to see the eclipse, I might as well just shut the school down for the day. Alright, almost done with the dumplings. Again, the flour from the dumplings is going to help thicken this, but we're going to help thicken a bit more. Alright, throw that in. Now, the last phase of this that Granny Daisy did, and again, no measurements involved because, you know, apparently measurements aren't needed when you've got it all in your head. She thickened it with milk and flour. She took a glass, and I don't have the same glass that she had, but I do have this lovely Godly Station Middle School, or Godly Station K-8 School Stallion glass. So what we can do is put some milk in that. And to that, we're going to add really good tablespoons of flour. Stir that in as I get flour everywhere again, which I'm good at. 1, 2, 3. All right, 3 good tablespoons of flour into, and this is just the whole milk. And we're going to stir that in, maybe. Stir it around like that. There we go. Okay. Try and get the flour in the milk. It's going to be a little lumpy, but that's okay. So there's my flour and milk mixture. And we're just going to pour this into the dish like that. Give that a good stir so it all gets mixed in. Put the lid on it, let it simmer, and it should thicken up quite nicely. And we'll just keep stirring it as it simmers for a while. I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit. See how my dumplings, see how big the dumplings have gotten once you put them in there. I mean, they really do swell up and puff up. Okay. Good stir there. Put the lid back on. And let it simmer. Okay, the dish is finished up and the sauce is thickened up. We got a nice creamy sauce here. We got chunks of chicken. I've got a coughing dog in the background. We got the celery, we got the carrots, we got these wonderful fluffy dumplings. It's all set to go. So, hope you made this chicken and dumplings made with fresh ingredients and a whole lot of love from Granny Daisy.